Part 3. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful wizard of what? The lords go to Port Baden to try and get a boat to Valor, a place from which no people ever return. Finding a boat is proven difficult, but Fargus, a pirate captain, seems willing to do it. First he asks for 100,000 gold. Hector agrees to it because he has a brilliant plan. He's going to run all the way back to Ostia to get some loot, then sell it, and then Arena Reviews to gather 100,000. This plan is so stupid that Hector's stupidity is contagious, and Edward thinks he can do the same with some treasures from Foray, despite the fact that there's no time to waste. Then Dart says Fargus will take him to the Dread Isle if they can defeat his crew, because he's a tad off-kilter. Well, I'm a tad off-kilter, and I'd never come up with an idea this dumb. How do you plan to get to Valor if the crew manning the ship you need is all dead? Even if you want to argue that they're not actually killing Fargus' crew, they're at least going to be causing some pretty serious injuries, right? Wait, does this mean they're not killing most of the other enemies they fight? What is this crap, Fire Emblem Fates? I mean, yeah, there are 3 other named enemy characters who don't die when they're killed, but Fargus dies if his HP goes to 0 here. I'm so confused. Whatever. They get to Fargus, and then we're on a boat. Now that we're on a boat, Hector has a bad feeling about this.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Then Lynn is talking to Hector, and she seemingly contradicts herself. She tells Hector her whole tribe was killed, when earlier she said there were survivors. So which is it? Turns out it's just a translation error, and there were survivors. Don't none of you people proofread this shit? So anyway, a dory is found near the ship, and Fargus' crew pulls it aboard. It has Ninian, which is such a ridiculous coincidence that even Ellwood starts criticizing this game's writing. Then Dart sees a pirate ship, with a flag he doesn't recognize, but he knows it's pirates. How do you know that? Did you read the script? So the pirates, the other pirates, breached the hull of Fargus' ship when Fargus was about to tear them a new asshole. This is a very convenient excuse to make Fargus go below deck with all of his men. You know, maybe if we hadn't injured or killed half his crew, this wouldn't have been necessary. Now let me give you guys a quick lesson in ship-to-ship combat. The pirate calling Fargus says the hull has been breached, and water is up to the galley. So I grabbed my dictionary, and it turns out the galley is basically a kitchen. So I guess that's where Ninian went, because she's a woman. Anyway, that implies the water is gushing in really quickly, so the breach in the hull must be below the waterline. But how'd they get a hole in there? See, when you shoot something and it ends up having to go through the water, it slows way the fuck down, and makes it really hard to penetrate the hull of a ship. So the cannons on the other ship are strong enough and close enough to shoot right through the hull of the Davros. So shoot a couple more holes, and the ship sinks, and you grab Ninian out of the wreck. By the way, she doesn't need to be alive for Nergal's plan to work. Or maybe Zoldam is like the cleverest guy in the Black Fang, and he only wanted to make the ship take enough water for all the pirates to be busy. And then while they're occupied, he takes Ninian. That would make him the most competent Black Fang member in this entire game. If he had been like any of the others, here's how the chapter would have gone. He gets his ship up close to the Davros, shouts, "Give me the girl, or we will kill you." Edward and Hector say something heroic and brave like, "Never!" And then Zoldan goes, "Prepare yourself!" And then they fight. I guess even the writers in this game want something different every once in a while. But either way, the battle starts. Right before you start, Jake or Dart comes up to tell you they have vendors on board. Wait, I thought you needed all hands below deck. Get back down there, the ship is fucking sinking. Why do you have vendors on board of a pirate ship? That's kinda weird. When the battle is over, Ninian comes out. She has some kind of amnesia, one of the laziest and most frequently overused plot devices in bad stories. If she had remembered anything about the Dread Isle, she wouldn't have wanted to go back, and the lords would not have taken her. But then the story doesn't work, so she's gotta have amnesia. Then Lynn mentions that the last time she saw Ninian, she and Niels were being hunted by dark-robed men, and something in the air hints at their involvement. Then Hector goes along with it, because he also fought dark-robed men when he was leaving Ostia. Must have been the same guys that came after Ninian. Hey asshole, if you're going to accuse every dark-robed man of being Black Fang, maybe you should throw Canas overboard, just to be sure. Oh also,
I have a bad feeling feeling about this.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Fargus drops them off on the coast and says they will wait 2 weeks for them to come back. Wait, didn't you just suffer a serious hull breach? Don't you need to get to a port or something to properly fix that? Ah, whatever. And then later Ninian has a bad feeling too.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Now we finally get to see both Albert and Nergal in the flesh. Nergal is chastising Albert for helping Ninian and Nils to escape. Now keep in mind, this is the second time that the siblings have escaped from Nergal's prison. The game's script is pretty roundabout in acknowledging this, but when we met them in Limb mode, they had escaped from Nergal for the first time and were on the run. Shortly after Limb mode, they are captured again. Whilst it might have been open to criticism that Nergal even let them get away once, it's okay for a story to have some convenient things happen. I mean, extraordinary events and close calls are a common feature in many fantasy and adventure stories. They can help add tension to scenes, which can help us get more invested. But the same lucky break twice? After the first time, Nergal should really have been extra careful, especially when these two are crucial components to his plan. Stuff like this stretches the audience's suspension of disbelief. In fact, I'd be willing to bet that in the original draft of the story, this was the first time they escaped. But Lynn and her mode were shoehorned into the game, so this crap ended up happening. But like I said, the game is pretty sneaky about the whole thing, so you probably didn't even notice it. This is actually kind of a running trend in this game, but more on that later. Now if you think Nergal is stupid in this cutscene, take a look at Darren! If Nergal can control dragons, then why does Darren think he's got any stake in his plans? Then the next lines are really poorly written. Force in one blow? What is this, fucking Star Wars? Was this supposed to be like that kind of thing you see in movies, where some interrogator punches a prisoner while emphasizing a word?
A possible reason why Nergal says force in capitals here is because the original Japanese script uses brackets around the word Eiger, otherwise translated as quintessence in the English script. In the Japanese script, brackets are usually used around made-up concepts, titles, or nicknames. However, my guess is that the translator assigned to this section thought that the brackets were indicating some sort of emphasis, hence the uppercase. Additionally, this is the first time the word Eiger appeared in the script, so the translation team probably hadn't settled on quintessence as the formal term yet. And then nobody bothered to actually compare the script to double check the translation, which is how we get this. Furthermore, in the original script, Nergal is actually talking to himself here, and referring to Darren, who is still laughing maniacally, rather than Albert in terms of not being up to the task. The English script makes it seem like he's talking directly to Albert, and accusing him of failing in some manner. Roughly translated, Nergal should be saying something like this. My plan to cause a war throughout all Lycia and obtain a massive amount of quintessence all at once. Was a man of this standing not enough? Ah well, it's not like I don't have other prospects available.
Anyway, Nergal commands Affidel to go and exterminate Eliwood, and rubs it into Albert that Eliwood will die in these woods. Leila panics and goes to warn Hector. Careful, Leila, if you don't watch out, you might get caught. Oh. So right now, Affidel's explicit orders are to take care of Eliwood. He has the element of surprise, since Eliwood doesn't know that they've already been spotted. What does he do? He tells Jafar to leave Leila's corpse for them as a warning. The fuck is this supposed to accomplish? Hey idiot, you were told to exterminate them. That's a lot easier if they don't know you're coming, so wouldn't this be counterintuitive? And anyway, the Dread Isle already has a pretty bad reputation. They're not going to be scared off that easily. Wait, why would he want them to be scared off? Surely if they turn around and leave with Ninian, that's like a big problem? I'm so confused. But anyway, if you really want to leave her corpse there, then do it yourself. You can teleport. Jafar is pretty fast, but he's no Sonic the Hedgehog. Or should that be Shadow the Hedgehog? Instead, we never see Affidel outside of Dragon's Gate from here on out. Well, maybe Jafar really is Sonic, because the very next scene they do find her corpse. Wow. Note that this is also the same exact area shown at the end of last chapter, so don't try to go making excuses about how Jafar just dropped her off at the halfway point or something. And you can't say that he got here before they did, because the scene where Nergal tells Ephiel that Eliwood has landed is pretty clearly in present tense. He doesn't say they're about to land. This also lines up with the presentation of the sequence of events. They land at the end of chapter 18, we see Nergal's scene at the start of 19, and then they find Leila. This is just the opening cutscene, and my brain is already full of fuck. Someone help me.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Now Eliwood and co are introduced to Ojai, the honorable nomad. He takes Lyn hostage to try and make the rest of them hand Ninian over, but once Eliwood refuses to make this trade, suddenly taking a woman hostage during battle is shameful. Huh? Is it okay if you're not really in a battle? And his orders were actually just to kill them. What a useless henchman. If only Nergal had more competent, reliable people around to do jobs for him. Like Jafar the Hedgehog. Wait, if Ojai was able to grab Lyn like that, why didn't he just grab Ninian? I guess the script didn't say he was allowed to do that. At the end of the map, Ojai even tells them the way to the Dragon's Gate. Lyn doesn't consider the fact that he might be lying because he was from Saka. Hey idiots, haven't you played FE6? But luckily enough, it all works out, and they're closing in on the Dragon's Gate. The fog disappears. Lyn and Hector do some stupid arguing about walking silently that nobody cares about, but then Ninian's danger radar goes off.
I've got a bad feeling about this, sir.
So their opponent this time is Aeon. Now Aeon and I aren't very good friends or anything, but we agree on one thing. Ojai was a stupid asshole idiot head. Hey, wait a minute. You look kinda familiar. Did they purposely use Marquis Arathon's mug for Aeon because they were both racists? Specifically against Sakarnovich? Then a fucking shaman just warps in to tell Eliwood to prepare himself. Because that's how assassins work in this game. You gotta tell your targets you're about to kill him. The only guy who seems to have this assassination thing down is Wrath in Limb mode, who shoots someone who just announced himself in the back without saying anything or revealing himself. And Wrath isn't even a trained assassin. I bet you always thought assassins were cool and sneaky, but this game sure does everything in its power to prove you wrong. Apparently Hector and Eliwood have superpowers too, X-ray vision to be precise, because they can see the commander and the ruins through a huge swath of mountains. They also know he's a magic user. Then Kishuna appears. Kishuna is like some dumb subplot that doesn't go anywhere, and never serves any real purpose beyond making this game look like it's more mysterious and complex than it is. He does, however, have a somewhat interesting effect that blocks the use of magic in a big area around him. Now Ion is supposed to be super smart, right? Why does he just sit there and shit his pants because he can't use magic anymore? Just move away! I mean, maybe the seal's reach is bigger than it looks in gameplay, but it can't be infinite, or else nobody in the world will be able to use magic. Even if it's really big, just run away then. Why stand there when you can't do anything? Retreat! For whatever reason, Renault is chilling here in these ruins, and there's like a billion different conversations he has with various characters on your team. Why the fuck are there so many? Maybe if the writers put this much effort into the actual story, I wouldn't be making this fucking review.
There's a weird mistranslation with Dorcas and Raven's exclusive lines here. They talk as if they've met another pilgrim on the island already, when what is really said is basically just a question about what kind of religion would require a pilgrimage to an island like this.
So to get to this chapter you have to kill Kishuna and get Nils to level 7 in Limb mode. Now I know I said I wouldn't talk about gameplay, but these requirements are beyond stupid. Kishuna vanishes right after the player phase where you first attack him. You can't use magic on him, and he dodges your attacks as easily as Google dodges paying taxes. To kill him with any semblance of reliability, you need to train and deploy like 4 specific units with a killing edge, surround him, and hope that you A. don't miss with your 58 hit rates, and B. get lucky with either critting twice or get above average stats from your units. That's bullshit.
Bullshit!
George Lucas probably would have done a better job balancing this, and he doesn't know anything about Fire Emblem. But if you do manage to get to this chapter, then you're rewarded with this lazy excuse for an opening. Ninian goes missing. You would think they would be a little more protective of her, considering she can't defend herself and she's lost her memories. Hector rightfully brings up that they are in a hurry, but Eliwood is okay with loitering around to see what Ninian is up to. Hey dumbass, did you lose your memory too? Your dad has been missing for over 6 months, and you've been on the road for like 2 weeks. You're currently this close to his location, the Dragon's Gate. Don't you think you want to check that out first, and then maybe come back here? Hector also wonders why she would have a memory connected to anything on the Dread Isle. Maybe because that's where she came from? You picked her up when you were on the boat, remember? Is your memory fucked too?
This is slightly less silly in Japanese, because Hector only really muses that it would be strange for her to have any memories connected to a building on the Dread Isle. But it's still pretty stupid either way.
Then some creepy dude in dark robes appears, and none of the lords suspect any possible connection to Nergal or the Black Fang, despite the fact that basically everybody they've met on this island so far has been out to kill them. They have a brief conversation about the nature of dark magic. Now this is surprisingly pretty cool, and is one of the few aspects of FE7 that actually adds to its predecessor. See, dark magic in Fire Emblem, like most fantasy settings, is typically portrayed as purely evil in nature. In Arcanea, dark mages are all connected to the big bad Garnev, or some crazy barbarians, and in Jugdral, they're all cultists that sacrifice kids and look like they're KKK members. FE6 bucked the trend by making sure not to characterize dark magic users as abnormal or evil. This was because they made way more playable units able to use it than in previous games. Sure, Salem was playable in FE5, but he was an outcast. FE7 goes further and develops the idea of dark magic as more of a primeval force of nature that often offers immense power and knowledge, but it will fuck you up if you're not too careful. When you use it, you gotta enter a kind of meditative trance and let it flow through you. Kanasa supports with Pen to describe how his brothers were overwhelmed when doing this, and have basically become empty husks, overtaken by darkness. Details like this give it a unique, dualistic vibe, where it's really ominous and foreboding, but intriguing and tempting at the same time. But just when you thought FE7's writing was getting better, Theodore the Shrike turns out to be with the Black Fang and does the same shit all these other Black Fang dudes do, announce themselves before they attack. He makes it clear that he knows who Eliwood is, then Hector makes a confusing response. You? It was you? Huh?
This is a pretty bizarre translation error, as it's basically literal to the point of warping the original meaning. In the Japanese script, Hector says, "Omae, masaka," which is literally, you. No way! However, the translator seems to have taken this to be some kind of accusation, rather than the expression of surprise that it typically is. A more natural way to translate it would be just, you. You're... because really all that needs to be conveyed is Hector's surprise directed at Theodore.
Well, and then they fight, and you win. Luckily, Ninian was safe all along, and not snatched away by any Black Fang accomplices. She's staring at a picture and Lin can't get her to move. But instead of showing the picture and letting us form our own opinion, they tell us what's on it and that it's eerie. This would have been a perfect use of a CG. In fact, the CG exists, but you only get to see it at the epilogue after doing all of Hector's Kushina connected guidance. Why? I don't know. The introduction to this chapter also had a flashback sequence, where a man is talking to 2 children. He tells them that he has to go to Einar to get their mother, that if he doesn't come back in 10 days, they have to go to the other side.
Einar is translated as if it's a place here, but it is in fact a name, the name of their mother.
Now, all of the aspects of this chapter combined aren't exactly what you would call subtle, but by this game's standards, it's practically fucking Citizen Kane. Then they decided at the end that the audience is too stupid to even connect a few dots. So Nergal warps in randomly and wonders why he's here. Can't you control where you warp? Wait, if you can warp all over the island, why didn't you just warp to Eliwood and take Ninian way before this? Whatever. But yeah, the implication is that Nergal is the father of Ninian and Nils. Considering how important this detail is, you would think it wouldn't be so out of the way. It can actually be used to justify some future idiocies later in the plot to a degree, but instead it's never mentioned again. You know, generally, if a bad guy is a parent of a good guy, they make like a point to show it. You're probably familiar with a really famous scene that does this in Star Trek. Wait, was it Star Trek? Who's fucking with my medicine? Finally, we're here. the Dragon's Gate. All of our questions will be answered. But first, Ninian has a bad feeling about this.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Then, Effida warps in to give them a Saturday morning cartoon villain welcome to his master's lair. He introduces himself to our heroes, announces his plan to take Ninian back, and gloats about Leila's death. This angers Hector, who attacks him. But Effida proves to be very adequate at teleporting, avoiding the attack entirely. He reappears right next to Ninian, grabs her, and vanishes again. He materializes near Darren and asks to take care of the infestation of mice. Hey asshole, that was your job. Maybe you should do it if it's so important. But no, he's going to take Ninian to Nergal, and Darren gets the honor of doing the dirty work. At this point, Darren comes across as so stupid that his sanity is in question. In fact, the lords seem to think he went mad too, but that's at the end of the chapter. The only reasonable way to explain his decision making is that Effida has exercised some kind of mind control powers over him, in order to make him leave his country, his son, and his army behind, and believe that he will rule the world with the help of a bunch of people with more power and more brains than he's got. Or maybe the writing is just bad. You decide for yourself. Nergal tries to one-up Effida, so he taunts Albert about getting Ninian back despite his efforts, as well as about having Eliwood killed. Then it becomes clear that Albert spent too much time with the Black Fang assassins, and says prepare to die as he's about to stab Nergal, but Jafar stops him just in time. Nergal is completely caught off guard by the fact Albert undid his bonds. This really is the least effective prison ever. Nergal then sends Jafar to take Albert and Ninian to the Far Chamber, so he can make preparations for the ritual. More like Jafar Chamber, right? Because it was written like this just so Jafar is kept away from a battle he would easily win, and we can't have that. Meanwhile, our heroes are trying to fight their way through the Dragon's Gate. They meet Legault, also known as the Hurricane. Wait a minute. Wasn't that someone else's nickname?
Legault's nickname in Japanese is Shipu, which translates to gale or hurricane, so his is fine. However, Yuban's nickname is Arawasi, which translates to something along the lines of savage eagle. The only explanation I've got for this mix-up is that the translator thought Arawasi was instead Arashi, which means storm. Or they thought there was some kind of pun or something. But you write them really differently in kanji, so this is still a really stupid mistake.
Oh, how embarrassing. After beating Darren, they enter the Dragon's Gate and hear Albert's voice from the darkness. This is it. This is the point at which the game's story becomes so badly damaged that it is beyond repair. In fact, it's so dense.
It's so dense.
Shut up! I said it's so dense that I'm just gonna let it play out entirely first before I start analyzing it. Man, so many stupid things happened in this scene. Let me try putting them in a list so I can go through them more easily. Number 1. Ephidel tells Jafar to leave. What? Number 2. They don't try to make a break for it after Jafar leaves. What? Number 3. Nergal tells Ephidel to stop Nils. And then Ephidel just asks him to stop instead of doing something. What? 4. Everyone is able to run away before the dragon blows up. Except Ephidel, the guy who can teleport. Nergal even teleported a few seconds before. What? Number 5. Elbert is still somehow not dead, despite his sacrifice supposedly being a necessary component to the whole ritual of opening the gate. What? I guess Jafar was told to leave, cause